Hi folks, and welcome again. I was asked the question, how do you get rid of chemtrails? Well, I'll tell you what chemtrails are first. Even though I've spoken about them many occasions, this is just a very old piece of technology. So what chemtrails essentially is nothing more than a conspiracy theory. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a conspiracy theory. Because the people that spray, that geoengineer the atmosphere around you, created the word called chemtrail. So when you use the word chemtrail, which they controlled, fed you, when you use that word, it will take you automatically to conspiracies, where it will list all the conspiracy items as well as the schools that teach it as a conspiracy. What you've got to do is understand how the practitioners of fictitious conveyancer languages work, which is they hide things. They hide it in plain sight and then disguise it with some Orwellian type of language. The word that you want to look for is geoengineering or cloud seeding. And there it will give you all the information that you need. And it will also tell you that cloud seeding, geoengineering, is a lot older than aeroplanes. And yes, they do come out of aeroplanes as well. They're in huge canisters. You know where your luggage used to be? Well, that's where they are, okay? And they also propel the engines because it's aerosol. So the engines themselves actually run on this stuff as well. There are other technologies that they use, including vibrations, the name of which I've forgotten, but I think it's something like pay on electricity. But I'll put the information up on the board for you, okay? So that's chemtrails, but the chemtrails is not limited to the airplanes. They also come out of big ships. It's geoengineering is taking place on a massive scale. It's not just taking place in your atmosphere, okay? So look up geoengineering, look up House of Commons, the Senate and whatever. It will give you all the information that you need. Also, they take out adverts in the newspaper to say that we're going to chemtrail, for example, or geoengineer California or San Francisco Bay. They take it out because that's public information. But of course, people do not understand geoengineering because the common vocabulary is chemtrails. Make the correct language yours, and that way the conspirators can't conspire. You see what I'm saying? But now I've told you about chemtrails, let me tell you about how to get rid of them. And this is something that you really do need to understand with diseases as well. If you create something so toxic like ice plus, ice minus, and then it gets released in the atmosphere and into the oceans, which can determine what level that sea ice or even normal H2O sets at, that means goes into crystalline structure, you need to be able to switch it off. And if you can't have a switch off mechanisms for these highly potent technologies, well, you've just lost yourself an Earth, a planet, a globe, an atlas. I think you know where I'm going with it. So what are the switch off mechanisms to get rid of chemtrails? Well, one of them is common vinegar. Vinegar will disperse chemtrails, and it really is that potent. Just think about it. That much of chemicals, that much of heavy metals floating in your skies, and you can't get rid of it? Well, what's going to happen to the people that control all of these things? What's going to happen to the people that give licenses to do these things? Do you really think they are stupid enough to think that they will allow themselves to be poisoned by the very thing that they are giving licenses to, including Vatican City and whoever is involved? Of course not. They have fail-safe mechanisms. And these fail-safe mechanism is one of them is vinegar. Take a large pot of vinegar and you can boil it up, just gently boil it up into the atmosphere, and the pot only needs to be that big, and you'll find a galloping hole will start to appear in the chemtrail above. That is the chemical that hovers as a sky, okay, pretending it to be a sky. That's why sometimes you get chemical rainbows in the atmosphere. It's because there's chemicals there. Simple as that. Another device that you can use, another simple technology, is by William Reich, which is an orgone generator, which is nothing more than noble metals pressed against some sort of carbon material like paper, copper, wood, copper, silver, copper, or just copper, paper, copper, paper, copper, paper, sandwiched all together. So they will produce a type of energy which you associate with electricity, lightning strikes and things like that. And what it does, it produces an ionosphere, and that ionosphere, like an ion drive, will disperse that chemistry above you, as well as the heavy metals. Why do I say this with such confidence? Well, just think about it. If you created something called the bubonic plague, and that bubonic plague still sits in a place called Blackheath in the other side of London and the other side of River Thames, okay, it's still active there. If it's a man-made disease, the engineers of this technology will have to switch it off. Well, do you remember during the bubonic plague times when a particular group of people went out stealing from the plague victims, and then they got caught, and the courts asked them, how did you protect yourself from this deadly disease? They just said, we stuck a bit of handkerchief into a pot of vinegar and we just put it over our mouths. And if we got bubonic plague and we saw the symptoms of it, we would just wipe ourselves down with vinegar. Well, that technology was known by the gentries. It was known by the manor houses, and they used to use it for their servants as well as themselves. Vinegar, ladies and gentlemen, is all you require to switch off the bubonic plague. These are the fail-safes that are in place. Me knowing these codes are able to crack them open as you would do with a walnut. So hopefully, not only have I touched upon bubonic plague and touched upon fail-safes and the variety that there are, especially for 5G transmitters, because they also have fail-safes. You can switch them off anytime that you want. Hopefully, I've explained fully as much as I can about chemtrails. Thank you very much for listening to me, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye now.